So if you're dealing with an H. pylori infection, this can really suck. This infection can be a real piece of work, and it's basically a bacterial infection that takes place in the stomach and part of the small intestine, and it can really create a wide variety of issues. It's not just that, oh, this can lead to gastritis and ulcers. It can basically turn off a person's digestive process and lead to a wide variety of other health issues as well. And just know that the majority of people seem to have H. pylori in their system, but when it's not to an overgrowth type state, it doesn't seem to create any trouble. We live happily together. It's when it gets a little bit out of control that it can really create a lot of trouble. So when you're looking to wipe out H. pylori, don't view it like you need to create total annihilation. You just need to get it under control a little bit and allow the body to work the way that it's supposed to so that it can keep everything in check. But we hear from a lot of people who are concerned about the standard medical treatment for H. pylori. They have a kind of a triple therapy that they call it, with some antibiotics and some PPI use, or proton pump inhibitors that are often used for acid reflux and such. But I'll show you this study here on H. pylori infection and small intestinal bacterial overgrowth more than what meets the eye. And it appears that some of these treatments have the ability to create a SIBO issue down the road, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So people get a little bit freaked out about that, and they like to look for more natural options. And I'm not going to dig too far into that study right now, but I'll put a link in the description below next week when our video, How H. pylori Led to Your SIBO, comes out. And I'll also put a link to all these studies that we talk about in the description below. It's okay if I'm standing in front of these. We'll make them big when we talk about them. But I just want to go through some of these natural options that are really prevalent in the scientific literature, and I'll have links to all these papers and studies in the description below. But understand that one theme that really kind of rings true with most of these things and the studies that you'll look through is that none of these things alone are going to take care of an H. pylori infection. Most people need to use more than one thing. When we're helping clients work through this, we're usually using 3, 4, 5 of these different things together, and we might alternate between a few different ones from week to week to try to mix things up a little bit. But one thing that seems to be very effective is zinc carnosine. And we'll look at this study. It's also known as Zinc. And in this study, they found that when they use the standard medical treatment, this seems to work pretty well at actually reducing the H. pylori issue initially, that people saw like 60, maybe 70% in improvement. But when they added this zinc carnosine, they saw 100% success. So 100% is just about as high as you can get, I think. So we like to use zinc carnosine. Most people will use about 75 milligrams, 2 or 3 times a day. I'm not telling you what dose to use. I'm just going to share what I found in these studies, and you'll have to figure out your own answers. Remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving anybody medical advice. I'm basically a professional stand-up comic turned nutrition author, because when I lost my voice for 8 years and 23 different doctors couldn't figure that out, I had to dig for my own answers. So now, 20 years later, I've been teaching health professionals in more than 40 countries how to help their clients fix the actual underlying causes of problems instead of just covering up the symptoms. But again, we'll have the links to these studies below so you can go through those and figure out the right questions to ask your doctor. So the next thing that we really like is mastic gum, and this is just kind of a resin from a tree in a far off land someplace. And we like it because when you're using these types of things to try to get rid of H. pylori, there's often going to be a die-off reaction. Most of the symptoms that you experience are from this kind of byproducts that they put out and their waste that they put out. And so when you kill them off, you basically kind of break them apart, and then all of that stuff comes out at once. So when people are killing them off, a lot of times they'll feel like a magnification of symptoms. And if they're taking one of these things and their symptoms get worse, they're like, oh, that's not for me. That made me worse. I ain't using that again. The reality was that they were making progress. They just didn't understand what they were experiencing. But mastic gum kind of works in a way where it seems to sort of like mummify kind of what's going on in there and just pull it through the digestive tract and out the back door. We view it almost like a natural antibiotic for the digestive tract. And some people will use bee propolis in a similar way, but we find that mastic gum works a whole lot better. We also like D-Limonene, which is an orange peel extract. And we like it because it seems to seep into that mucus barrier where they go in and hide, and can help wipe them out a little bit better there in the stomach. Most people just use about 1,000 milligrams in the morning every other day on this, and this one can be a little bit more aggressive. Berberine is very popular with H. pylori. It not only seems to help reduce the overgrowth, but it seems to help reduce the inflammation that can come from that bacteria in the stomach. Now, berberine is also used a lot to help improve insulin resistance. So if someone's hypoglycemic, I don't like to see them use berberine, because then that might help their body process glucose even more aggressively and create bigger sugar crashes. So that might not be appropriate if you feel like you're dealing with hypoglycemic type issues. Curcumin is another one. This comes from turmeric. And one thing about curcumin is a lot of people will say, oh, you really want to get a bioavailable source so that it absorbs better. Otherwise, it's hard to absorb. Now, this is great for some anti-inflammatory things, but when we're using it to deal with an issue in the digestive tract, we don't want it to be bioavailable. We want it to stay in the digestive tract and do the work that it's doing there. So if you're going to use curcumin, try not to get one of those bioavailable, easier to absorb ones. Now, one of my favorites is oregano oil, and this can be very effective. And a lot of times if you're just using like an essential oil, you want to make sure that you dilute that. Don't just take a straight essential oil. And one of the studies below that I'll show you showed that a combination of oregano oil and thyme oil was really effective. We use oregano oil capsules a lot, maybe 2 or 3 of those gel caps, but if you want to use the essential oil, that seems to be very effective. And there's a lot of studies that show that like herbal botanicals and natural herbs and such can be really effective at helping to get this infection under control. You can even get formulas. We use one called Intestable. I'm not telling you that that's the one you got to use and it's going to fix all your problems, but I'll put links to the ones that we use in the description below just so you can see those and see the ingredients. That formula we have has oregano but some other botanicals that really seem to make it very effective. And we can also look at foods that can be helpful. One thing is really great is cabbage juice, and this has shown a lot of promise, mainly because of its ability to heal up like ulcers and inflammation in the stomach. So it's not as good at actually wiping out the H. pylori, but it seems to be very effective at reducing inflammation that they may have created. Celery juice seems to be a little bit better at reducing bacterial overgrowth either in the stomach or the small intestine. If someone's stool is leaning on that looser side or having diarrhea issues, you would not want to use celery juice. We use celery juice a lot for people who have a digestive overgrowth and they're leaning on the constipation side, and it seems to help them out a whole lot. Garlic can be very effective. That allicin in the garlic is very antimicrobial. So putting garlic in your food or even just supplementing with garlic could be a beneficial situation for H. pylori. A lot of people talk about cranberry. We haven't seen the greatest results with cranberry, but a lot of people show a lot of success. So if you've used cranberry, let us know in the comments. If you've used something else, let us know in the comments so that we can share your experience as well. And broccoli sprouts contain something called sulforaphane that seems to be very effective at wiping out these. So you can't always find broccoli sprouts in every grocery store, but if you have a health store, they'll often have broccoli sprouts, and just adding some of those to a salad every day can be very beneficial as well. Now with these food options, most people are not going to fix the problem just with food. I just want to be honest with you. Most people need to be more aggressive. This infection, if it's significant, can be really hard to get under control. And again, you're going to have to use more than 1 or 2 things. Most people need to use 4 or 5 things at a time from this list. That doesn't mean you want to start off with 4 or 5 things. You just want to start off a little bit, or that die-off reaction could be significant and really make you feel lousy and be like, ah, man, I hate that guy that talked about that stuff. So be kind to yourself and just add things every other day or so to kind of increase the aggressiveness that you're using to take care of this situation. Now, the length of time that a person might want to use is really going to vary from person to person. And for some clients, mastic gum, they talk about using that for 4 to 8 weeks even. And so we usually use that the longest as we get rid of other things. We really like to judge it on how a person is feeling, how their digestive symptoms are improving. So I hope that gives you some insights into some natural steps that you can take to reduce an H. pylori infection. But since this can be a complicated topic, we have videos coming out later this week, and we'll link them in the description below once they're available, for What if my H. pylori test was negative but symptoms still persist? And also our video on how your H. pylori infection led to SIBO. But once you get things under control, it's very important that you take the right steps to ensure that this doesn't keep coming back. So we have a video coming out tomorrow, and we'll have it in the description below, but we'll link it right up here when it's available for our video on how to keep H. pylori from coming back. I can't wait to hear about your results.